Hello! I'd like to welcome you all to my channel. My name is Tristan, if you don't know it already, and I have usually been making Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. I have been trying to branch out into other forms of hobbies recently, such as playing Lord of the Rings online, and branch out into what I wanted to talk about with all of you today, and that is painting Warhammer and miniatures. Back in the beginning of COVID, so this was about May of 2020, we had some restrictions lift and our local games workshop had been reopened down here in Florida. My friend Enzo had invited me to paint some miniatures, and I had no experience whatsoever about it, and I also did not know what 40K was at the time. He said, just do it, it's gonna be fun, you have some experience painting. I said, why not, it'll be something we can talk about. So we went to our local games workshop, and I bought my very first box of Warhammer, and it was the cheapest one there, and I liked orcs, so I bought a Runt Herd box. There, I had painted my very first grot, and ever since then, it spiraled downhill. I've gotten addicted to the smell of acrylics, I have painted a massive amount of models, and I paint everything to very high standards. My favorite thing to do, and what I wanted to talk with you all about today, is actually painting snow bases. Well, not really painting, but texturing them. You can do very little to make it look like a lot. Adding some rocks that you found in your backyard, or taking some cork bark and painting it to look like a rock, mixing up your snow mixture. It's a very easy process compared to having to use a static grass applicator or grass tufts that may cost you like $10 to $15 a pop. Snow? Easy, I can make it left for less than $1. So I wanted to share with you guys the secrets of how I make my snow bases. So, what do we actually need to make our snow mixture? First, we're going to be using Elmer's glue. Any Elmer's glue should work, but I'm using Glue All Interior. I find this to be pretty good with binding down the snow, and it gives you pretty good texture in the very end. The only bad part is the fact that it's slightly yellow, so you have to compensate more with our second ingredient, which is some craft paint. This is some white craft paint from Folk Art. It's called Wicker White. I believe it was like $3 or $4 when I bought it at the hobby store recently. And you don't want to be using your miniature paints because they're expensive, and it's just easier to use some cheap craft paint. Our last ingredient that we're going to be using is some baking soda, multi-purpose baking soda. You can use baking powder, but it'll give you more of like a frosty look. If you guys saw the skeleton earlier, the snow on that was made using some baking powder. If you want to go for that look, try that out. The only issue is I don't know if over time it will interact with the glue. I know that the baking soda interacts with the glue over time and turns slightly yellow, so that's why we compensate more with the white paint. Other than those three things, I have some accessories that I use. I use a small trowel. This is pretty good for being able to lay down the snow mixture and being able to pack it down if you're trying to go for that sort of look, like a Warlord Titan or a Titan stepped on it, or if you're trying to make like footprints. But if I want a more fluffy texture, I have an old paintbrush that's cut very, very small, and I use it for a stippling motion to fluff up the snow. Other than those two things, the last part that you need is a base, and of course, your miniature. There's also one other thing. You want to make sure that you have a basin that you can mix your snow mixture in. This is a cut up solo cup, like the very bottom of it. I find it pretty cool and easy to use because of the fact that you can just toss it afterwards and it's disposable. I don't use the top for anything. You might be able to save those for some miniature projects, but those are all the ingredients and accessories that I use. So I start off usually taking my baking soda, and I take my trowel and be able to grab out a little bit and put it into my cup. After I add just a small amount, because mind you, we're not texturing a massive base. We only have a 25mm base here. So I take my little bit of mixture, and then what I'll do is I'll take my glue next. Oh man, this thing's hard to open. Got the glue stuck all on the top. Oh, 1 minute. I just gotta peel the back layer. Okay, this is what you have a little hobby knife for. The top is all shut, so I have to cut that open. Let's see. Come on. No? It's not popping open. Remember, boys and girls, proper knife safety. There we go. I popped it open. Okay. getting back to the topic, we take a little bit of glue and we're going to start off with a very small amount. I would say maybe like 1 drop or 2 drops. Depending on the consistency, you can change your glue ratios and your snow ratios. Like in the snow, I'm saying baking soda. And then the last thing that we're gonna add in is we're gonna add in, make sure you shake your paints before you do this because you don't want it to be watery. We're gonna add in maybe 1 or 2 drops of white paint. Okay, this is a little bit more than a drop or two, but as I said, the ratios are kind of finicky. You just have to make it work. And then what I'll do is I'll use the back of my paintbrush and mix the snow. We're getting a pretty good texture in. I think we're gonna definitely need a little bit more of the baking soda for it to work. Yeah, I think we add a little bit too much paint and a little bit too much of the glue wall. So we're gonna add a little bit more baking soda. The ratios I would say are probably, you go even on everything probably with weight. And there's a little bit more baking soda. I'll leave my trowel in there just in case I need a little bit more. Mix that up. It's looking pretty good, I'd say, so far. It's a little bit too liquidy right now. It kind of looks like melted snow. If you want to go for that look, I would say that this ratio is pretty good, but we're trying to go for more of a thicker feel. So we need a little bit more baking powder, or baking soda, sorry. There we go, just a little bit more baking soda. We definitely have enough glue. We're just trying to get this a little bit more fluffy. Okay, yeah, it's starting to change now. I can definitely see it. I absolutely love doing basing because painting the model can be pretty fun. It takes time, of course, and you can get a really nice product looking afterwards, but I absolutely love basing because I think the base more than the model itself speaks to the situation that it's in. If you have a nice frozen base, and like let's say with Tombstones, he's in a graveyard. If you have a jungle base, but everything's rotting around it, you could be in like a Garden of Nurgle, for example. You could be stuck in the Garden of Nurgle, which would be pretty cool looking. Just a little bit more baking soda, just not enough. I think I'm on double the ratio so far of baking soda to anything else. There it turns. You kind of want it to look doughy. Like if you guys saw it was like kind of liquidy before, but now it's almost like a dough. Okay, yeah, I think that we have reached the consistency that we're looking for. Sorry if this is kind of freeform. This is my first experiment doing a video like this. I'll have to try to figure out with regards to more and better camera angles. I'm just kind of used to this overhead view from doing all my Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and it's kind of my specialty, I guess you could say. But just, you know what? I'm gonna add just a smidgen more baking soda. There we go. I have to say that trowel is extremely useful. I got it for, I think, $5 at my Artorama, and I have used it quite a bit with making my snow and also adding stuff like powders, like pigment powders and whatnot. And there we go. I think this is what the texture I want the snow to be. So now that we have the snow texture done, what we can do is I'm just gonna get the excess off onto the base with my brush bottom. And then I'm going to take my trowel. Make sure you don't have any leftover baking soda or else it's gonna track onto your base. And we're gonna pick up this snow mixture and we're gonna start plastering it on. And we got most of it out. Just need a little bit more. Let me see. Okay. There. That's all the snow texture, I believe. That's out of there. Plaster it on. And we got pretty good looking snow so far. We're going to spread it out using our trowel, and then we're going to fluff it up using our brush. One cool thing that I do like about the way that I do snow with this is the fact that it is glue based already. So we don't actually have to use a glue to put down our miniature. We can actually just plop our miniature down in this and it will be fine. Okay, so we're getting our snow all spread out. Make sure you cover all the edges. You don't want to leave any black edges, so you kind of want to feather it out and get it pretty even across. Yeah, we're gonna go like this, get it spread a little bit more. At this point, it's very artistic. You just have to kind of get a feel for it and figure out how you want the base to look. Usually I'm adding like small rocks or small like gravestones that I made out of clay to it to make it look like a graveyard. But for now, we're just doing a basic snow base to show you guys how to do this. So then we're gonna smooth this out just a little more, you know, little happy mistakes, like Bob Ross says. And there we go. We got all of our snow done on the top of the base. I'm not sure if I can get a really good angle with it, but I'd say it looks pretty darn good. So now the last thing that I like to do is I use my little brush. As you can see, it's very, very short. The wick size or the brush size is about that long, the gap between my middle finger and my index. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stipple. And what that does is it really fluffs up the snow and gives it a nice texture. It makes it look like, it makes it look very grainy, like it was just fresh dropped. And you can stipple this as much as you want to be able to get a good texture going. If you added too much glue, it will kind of smooth out and fill in. So you want to do it a little bit more vigorously. But as you guys can see on the camera, it is slowly transforming into a better texture. It's a bit weird. I'm trying to figure out my camera angle because of the fact that I had the screen flipped upside down. So if I'm like this or like this, if I'm not sure you guys are seeing it correctly. But we're just gonna stipple it a very small amount more. Yeah, I used a little bit too much glue, so it's kind of filling in, so I actually have to press a little bit harder. And maybe do a little bit of swirling to get a like ripple texture on, like the winds were pushing it around. This is how I do every single one of my snow bases. I found that this process is probably the best way to go about it, especially using like the very small brush because it gives you very good control because the bristles are so small. Also, it's really nice because of the fact that your bristles won't really pick up any of the snow because they're so short, and it's really easy to clean. You want to make sure that you use like a kind of trashy brush though when you're doing this, because you don't want to ruin a good brush. So this is like an old brush that I had that was like really crappy bristles, and I used it instead to make this. Ooh, yeah, we're pushing that snow around nice and good. Yeah, now it's got a really good textured base, if you guys can see. It has like ridges and has texture to it. And the cool thing is the baking soda and the glue mixes together and it kind of creates like a film on top. So that's what allows you to actually push this around into the ridges that you want and also giving it the texture. And I think I am satisfied with our snow base. So that actually finishes up the snow base. That's as simple as it is. And the last step that we're going to do is we're going to plop our model down on there. And there we go. And our Skaven is mounted. I just have to give it a little bit of time to dry and set now. What I also like to do is after I put the model in and being able to, because mind you, it is a glue, I like to push a little bit into the feet to make sure that it's kind of grabbing it, almost like it's suction cupping the model in. You can choose not to do this, but sometimes the model may pop out. I've found that happen once or twice. But I think that, yeah, this is the model and it's finished. And I will show you guys a nice looking montage after. I hope you guys enjoyed my little tutorial video for making a snow base. As you can see, it's very quick, easy to do, and doesn't take a lot of materials. Hopefully you guys can use it to base your models before a game. As you saw, it took me maybe 5 minutes to find the right mixture, but if you're making a large batch, you can base your models extremely fast. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in yet another one.